14 SEALs, surrounded, out of ammo. The gorge was a kill box too tight, too lethal for any pilot to survive. Their last words crackled through the radio. "We'll hold, but tell our families we fought." Inside the operations tent at Black Rock Forward Command. No one dared argue. Pilots had refused the run. Drones never survived the bend. Every chart and elevation line said the same thing: Kestrel Gorge was death. But exceptions are born, not written. She didn't ask permission. She didn't wait for backup. And when Major Aria Cortez's A-10 Thunderbolt II, callsign Ironhawk, began to thunder awake on the tarmac, even hardened ground crews froze in place. Because everyone knew once she took the sky, something was about to change, not just in that canyon, but in the history of what one pilot could do alone. You're watching Stories That Salute, where the legends of silent heroes, the medics, the operators, the pilots who rewrote battlefields finally come to light. If this story has found you, it's not an accident. So lean closer, because this isn't just about war. It's about one woman, one aircraft, and the moment she flipped an entire battlefield upside down. The ops tent fell silent as the message replayed. Command. This is Viper Team. 14 operators pinned. High ground occupied. Ammo low. Do not attempt extraction. This is our last stand. Then only static. At the back of the room, Major Aria Cortez stood motionless, her arms folded, her flight suit streaked with grease from the hangar. She didn't blink, didn't shift, just stared at the glowing monitor as if she could will a signal back onto the screen. Nothing came. No signal, no blip. Just silence, muttered Lieutenant Ryan Blake, liaison for the SEALs, his knuckles pressed white against the ops table. That canyon's a death trap. Even drones won't clear the first ridge. The maps offered no argument. Brutal elevation shifts. Crosswinds like invisible hammers. Radar blind in most sectors. Kestrel Gorge. Deep in the Black Rock Highlands, locals called it the Devil's Maw. Wasn't just terrain. It was a killing ground. Colonel Nathan Cross exhaled sharply. We wait until nightfall, if they're still breathing. Blackhawks go in low moon. But everyone in the tent knew nightfall would be too late. The enemy owned the peaks, RPGs, heat seekers, spotters covering every path in and out. Someone whispered what no one wanted to admit. Even the SEALs are saying goodbye. Arya's voice cut the silence. No. Every head turned. Colonel Cross narrowed his eyes. Excuse me. Major, we're not waiting, Arya said evenly. I've flown that gorge before during Operation Iron Dagger. I know where the thermals break. I know how to ride the shadows. You're proposing low-altitude runs in a radar dead zone. Yes, sir. You'd be flying blind. Not blind, she replied. Just below everyone else, scoffs echoed. That gorge eats aircraft. Arya didn't look away from the map. If I stay under the ridgeline, hug the southern wall, use the turbulence to my advantage, I stay fast. Stay low. Don't give them time to blink. You'd have to fly under 150 feet just to enter. Cross pressed. I won't clip a wing. You lose the aircraft, understood. You lose your life. Her gaze hardened. If no one gives them cover, that last stand becomes a massacre. The silence grew heavier than artillery. Tactical screens flickered. Someone dropped a pen. Finally, Lieutenant Blake broke it. You really think you can pull this off? Arya didn't lift her eyes. I don't think. Lieutenant, I know. And with that, the storm had already begun. 20 minutes later, Hangar Bay 3 roared alive. Her bird was waiting an A-10 Thunderbolt II, fully armed, armor-piercing rounds gleaming on the load racks. Ground crew scrambled, hands black with oil, sweat shining under floodlights as they reset hydraulics and checked flare dispensers twice over. The Warthog was built for survival. Slow, brutal, impossible to kill, the kind of aircraft that earned ugly nicknames and never apologized. But tonight, Major Aria Cortez wasn't just flying ugly, she was flying impossible. As she zipped her gloves, a young crew chief sprinted to her side. "Ma'am, wait." Arya turned. In his hand wasn't a checklist, but a photo. Creased edges, faded ink. It showed her with half a squad of exhausted medics, dust caked on their helmets after the Red Serpent Corridor rescue 2 years back. On the back, scribbled in grease pencil, were 3 words: "We walk because of you." For the first time that night, Arya's jaw softened. She slipped the photo into her sleeve pocket without a word, then climbed the ladder into her cockpit. Inside, everything was calm, the kind of calm that only comes just before the sky tears itself open. Her hands moved automatically, flaps, trims, throttle checks, muscle memory drowned out fear. Outside, the late sun carved long shadows across the tarmac, gilding the Warthog in a copper glow. Her HUD blinked green, all systems functional. The cockpit fit her like a second skin. She drew one steady breath, then thumbed the mic. "Falcon Control. This is Ironhawk 1, requesting immediate wheels up on Vector 2-1. The response came without hesitation. "Ironhawk 1. You are cleared for takeoff. Godspeed." Arya pushed the throttles forward. The twin engines screamed. Tires howled against concrete, and the Warthog surged down the runway like it was chasing something ancient. When the wheels finally lifted, the entire base seemed to hold its breath. One tech whispered, "There she goes, where no one comes back from." Another answered, "Then watch closely. This time it's Ironhawk." But Arya didn't hear them. She was already climbing, already narrowing her mind to a single thought. 14 lives. One way in. No margin for error. She angled the nose toward the jagged silhouette of the Black Rock Highlands. The storm was coming, and this time it had wings. Long before the world called her Ironhawk, she'd been just another name at Laughlin Air Force Base. No legacy, no senator's letter, just a pilot's license and a silence that unsettled her instructors. On her first T-6 Texan II flight, one trainer scribbled, "Too quiet. Watch closely." They mistook stillness for doubt. But Arya wasn't uncertain she was listening. By her third solo, she was already memorizing wind shear and crosswind limits in her head. She didn't argue. She didn't brag. She just flew. And when she first touched the stick of an A-10, everything changed, where others fought the beast. Arya moved with it. The Warthog answered like it recognized her. One colonel, a man who rarely praised anyone, muttered after watching her sim, "She flies like the sky owes her something." Her call sign came later, after a storm mission where she led 2 damaged Warthogs home through lightning and chaos. The tower logged her words. Ironhawk reporting 2 and 2. Clear the runway. That name stuck. But call signs are never earned once. Tonight, in Kestrel Gorge, with Viper Team counting their last breaths. Arya Cortez was about to prove it again, because the sky wasn't hers yet. She would have to take it, by the time the tower lost her radar blip. By the time Arya Cortez's A-10 Ironhawk dipped beneath the peaks and vanished into the canyon. No one in Hangar Bay 3 doubted why she had gone. They knew her story. They knew her name. And now, once again, the storm was coming back with a vengeance. The first sign she had left safety wasn't the turbulence or the sudden drop in altitude. It was the silence. The moment Ironhawk slid beneath the radar line. Her comms crackled, then bled away. The voices from command faded, leaving only the hum of twin turbofans and the roar of wind funneling through jagged walls ahead. The world shrank to cockpit glass, trembling gauges, and instinct. She had entered what pilots called the Maw, a trench carved deep into the Black Rock Highlands, twisting like a serpent and spitting out most who dared enter. Official maps labeled it Sector Zulu 3, but to those who had flown it and failed, it was simply the trap. Arya leveled her warthog just above the ridgeline, fingers feather light on the throttle. Below her, ancient pines looked like blades of grass. Heat surged off the stone like breath from a furnace. Her altimeter blinked 142 feet. Not low enough. She dropped another 20. Every nerve in her body tuned to the gorge, the whip of crosswinds, shadows bending the wrong way across rock, the sudden slam of an updraft like an invisible hammer. She wasn't flying a route. She was threading a needle through a minefield made of air. Somewhere ahead, Viper Team was still alive, barely. Their last known coordinates sat near a dried-out creek bed south of a bend, and the ridges above were crawling. Her infrared lit up with motion. At least a dozen fighters. Maybe more. RPGs. 2 man-pads. They hadn't seen her yet. That was her only advantage. She took a long breath, not fear, but focus. Low-altitude combat was already a gamble with death. Doing it while firing. That was suicide. But she had trained for this. She'd rehearsed scenarios others refused to simulate. She hadn't come to hover. She'd come to end it. Her left hand flipped the cannon safety to live. Ju-8 Avenger, 30mm, 3 900 rounds per minute. The weapon wasn't just power, in the right hands. It was surgical. She waited. Timing was everything. She throttled down slightly, letting the Warthog drop into a steeper descent 117 feet. Proximity alarms blinked red, then died. She didn't need them. Down here, you didn't fly by instruments. You flew by feel. Her headset caught a fragment just enough. Ironhawk, Viper, heavy fire, North Ridge can't move. That was all she needed. Arya shoved the throttle forward, banking hard right. Her left wing passed 20 feet from stone. Her vision tunneled. Adrenaline surged. Altitude 102, speed 310 knots. Muzzle flashes bloomed ahead, dozens of them. The enemy never saw her coming. Too low. Too fast. She squeezed the trigger. The Ju-8 barked like thunder from the gods. The canyon walls lit up as bunkers vaporized. Sandbags shredded. Fighters erased in dust and smoke. The lead RPG vanished before it fired. She walked the fire across the ridge, tearing every position apart. Splash! North Ridge, she radioed. A cheer cracked back through the static. We see you, holy hell! We see you! But she wasn't done. Movement to the west. 2 technicals bouncing across a ridge trail. Gun mounts bristling. Arya dove again, treetops brushing her belly. She fired. The lead truck flipped, exploding. The second slammed into a boulder, bursting into flame. Silence fell. The canyon stilled. She breathed once. Fingers hovered above the controls, waiting, listening. Then a new voice reached her headset, fragmented, breaking through static whenever she skimmed above the ridgeline. Just enough to carry desperation. Ironhawk. Hostile reinforcements inbound from East Ridge. 2 minutes out. Viper Team is moving south to the LZ. They need 5 minutes of cover. Can you hold? Arya checked her gauges. Fuel bleeding fast. Flares barely 30%. Stabilizer rattling under strain. Still. Her reply was instant. Affirmative. I'll hold the line. She rolled her A-10 eastward, toward the incoming swarm, because when Ironhawk was overhead, the sky belonged to her. They were about to learn. When Ironhawk was overhead, the sky belonged to her. The eastern ridgeline rose ahead, jagged like broken teeth, casting shadows that swallowed the canyon floor as the sun bled lower. Major Aria Cortez knew the worst wasn't behind her. It was changing shape. Reinforcements were pouring in fast, and with the element of surprise gone. The next few minutes would test every inch of her warthog, and every instinct she had ever earned. She leveled at just under 95 feet, the lowest she had ever dared in live combat without night cover. The canyon pinched into a bottleneck, one way in, one way out. No forgiveness. Her sensors had already failed once. Now her HUD flickered like a dying candle, throwing off altimeter readings she didn't trust. Down here, you flew by feel, by memory, by instinct. Her headset crackled. Ironhawk. This is Viper Team. Moving fast, but we're exposed on the south bank. Enemy above us. She didn't need to see it. She could already picture fighters scrambling across the ridge, RPGs raised to finish the job. Below, Viper Team sprinted through open ground, smoke grenades marking their desperate path. Every second she bought them was life they shouldn't have had. The only way to stop them was to climb. But Arya dove. The warthog screamed in protest as G-forces crushed her spine. Trees blurred past like spears, dust exploding in her wake as her undercarriage brushed the scrub line. Her voice was barely a whisper. Come on, hold together. She yanked right, leveled low, and the south ridge filled her sights. Enemy silhouettes hunched over launchers, barrels glinting. She flipped the manual targeting switch, locked in, and fired. The GAU-8 Avenger didn't roar, it announced. At this range, it wasn't noise but raw impact, each round a hammer strike declaring, "This canyon is mine." Rock walls shattered. Dust rose in pillars like smoke from an altar. The enemy line broke. But so did her aircraft. Warning lights flared red. Hydraulics bled pressure. Engine temps spiked beyond the red line. The warthog rattled like a dying beast, but Arya's jaw set, her hands steady. She trimmed manually, fighting to keep the bird alive. One mistake and she'd be another scar in the valley wall. She turned sharp, loosed another burst, scattering the last RPG crew into the rocks. "Southridge clear," she called, breath ragged. "Copy, Ironhawk, we're almost at the LZ." She barely had time to exhale when her battered radar blinked with 3 heat signatures sprinting across the eastern slope. One unmistakable, a man-pad launcher. The one weapon she couldn't outfly. Her flares were gone. Her time was gone, unless she made herself too close to lock onto. Arya slammed the throttle forward. Nose down, the world became a blur of gray and motion. Cliffs rushed past close enough she could see their cracks. At 400 knots, she weaved between them like threading a needle with fire in her lungs. The insurgents froze, too late. The cannon barked again. Savage bursts tearing the launcher apart. Fighters scattered like leaves in a storm. She pulled up too hard. The warthog groaned, stabilizer tearing at the seams. Sparks kissed her wing as it clipped a ledge. Warning lights screamed. Fuel pressure dropped. Hydraulics failed. Flaps gone. One engine coughing smoke. Still she flew. "Ironhawk, this is command. Do you require assistance?" Her reply came calm, unshaken. "Negative, not done yet." In the canyon below, Viper Team broke through the last bend. Smoke grenades marked the extraction point. Chinooks inbound 3 minutes out. Exactly 180 seconds of clean airspace were needed. Arya turned her crippled warthog back toward the eastern mouth. Lower than before. Below cliff. Below radar. Below reason. Because if the sky couldn't protect them, then she would take the ground instead. And the storm was not finished. The warthog screamed downward, passing inches above the treetops. Her sudden bank threw a wall of turbulence across the gorge. The RPG spiraled off course, detonating harmlessly mid-air. The blast lit the canyon like lightning. From a Chinook pilot's headset came the disbelieving shout, "Ironhawk." "You just intercepted a missile with your plane." Arya didn't answer. She was already banking again, from inside the helicopters. The SEALs watched her roar past. For a heartbeat, even the battlefield noise fell away. What they saw wasn't just a pilot. It was a phantom ripping through the canyon, dragging steel and smoke behind her, bending gravity like it owed her a favor. Her bird was breaking down controls sluggish, stabilizer cracked, one engine coughing smoke, hydraulics bleeding, fuel light flashing red, but she wasn't slowing. "Who the hell is that?" a rookie whispered. The team leader didn't blink. "That's Ironhawk. You don't ask. You just thank her. On the ground." The enemy's will collapsed. Fighters scattered into the rocks or disappeared beneath stone. The sky no longer belonged to them. The valley was hers. Arya eased her A-10 into one wide circle over the extraction zone. Her eyes stung from sweat and smoke. Her muscles ached with every correction. But still, she held steady. Then the call she had been waiting for crackled in Ironhawk. "This is Viper. We are secure. Repeat, secure." She exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Copy. Hold tight. I'll walk you out, because extraction wasn't freedom. Not yet." The canyon still had teeth. The Chinooks lifted off in a storm of dust and debris, their rotors tearing cyclones through the valley. Arya pushed her crippled warthog forward, escorting them at an altitude no doctrine would ever approve. She wasn't just clearing the sky. She was leaving a message to the enemy, to her command, to every pilot who'd ever been told it couldn't be done. Below the cliffs, she had turned her aircraft into a storm. And storms don't end quietly. Her landing was chaos. Tires screamed. Sparks skidded beneath the fuselage. With no flaps, no brakes, and a wounded stabilizer, she fought the bird like it was a dying animal refusing to collapse. At last, the A-10 shuddered to a stop, steam hissing from its frame. For a long moment, no one moved, only the soft hiss of cooling metal and the dry wind across the strip. Then the canopy opened. Major Aria Cortez climbed down slowly, helmet in hand, flight suit torn and blackened. Her gloved hand clung to the ladder as if her legs might give, but they didn't. She stood tall. Fire crews froze. Medics hovered. No one spoke. She bore no visible wounds, yet everyone could see it in her face. She had flown to the edge of death and back. Her eyes were raw, her breath shallow, but beneath it all was calm. The calm of someone who had done the impossible. The engineers roped off the Warthog immediately, left engine shredded, cannon scorched, stabilizer hanging by a hinge. A mechanic shook his head. "She shouldn't be here, but she is." Command's debrief was cold. Satellite footage replayed maneuvers no manual could explain radar dodges below 70 feet. Blind fire precision. An RPG deflected by turbulence alone. The Pentagon liaison muttered about broken orders and reckless methods. Colonel Nathan Cross cut him off and saved 14 SEALs who'd be dead without her. Outside the chain of command, her story had already escaped. Helmet cam footage from Viper team hit the net within hours. The frame of her A-10 ripping between cliffs, cannon firing, spread with a caption. "This angel flies below radar." Forums lit up, news ran with it. Cadets began calling her Canyon Run the Iron Line. They grounded her. Of course, pending review, pending silence. But heroes don't stay grounded. 3 weeks later, she was quietly assigned to a new unit, an advanced tactical instructor wing. Her only demand: no simulators, real terrain, real pressure, real flying. Years passed, doctrine shifted, training manuals bent. Officially. No one ever named it after her, but every pilot knew the truth. The Ironhawk method was written in fire that day, and somewhere in Kestrel Gorge. A scar still runs across the cliff face, a reminder of where one woman flew so low she stripped bark from the trees and changed the course of a war. A cadet once asked her in class, Major Cortez, "Why did you fly so low that day?" She looked out the window, silent for a long moment. Before answering, they told me it couldn't be done. But I knew better. Sometimes when no one else will dive into the fire, you have to become the storm.